This happened a few years back when I was still young enough to think breaking into places was a good idea. Me and my friends Daniel and Marcus had heard about an abandoned school in Jacksonville, Florida. It was close to Halloween, and Daniel, who was trying to build a YouTube channel at the time documenting creepy locations, thought it would be perfect content. I was pretty hyped about it, honestly. The school had a reputation. Local urban legends had been circulating about it for decades. Some said it closed after a boiler room explosion that killed several students. Others claimed a janitor went on a rampage. There were wilder versions, a cannibalistic principle, occult rituals in the basement, the usual internet rabbit hole stuff. Whether any of it was true didn't really matter for what Daniel had in mind. The rumors alone were the content. We got there around 10 p.m. The school sat right next to I-95, which sounds like it should have been reassuring. Traffic, lights, people nearby, but it wasn't. The building itself was pitch black and surrounded by a heavy chain-link fence. Standing outside looking at it, the hype started draining out of me a little. Daniel had already pulled out his camera. We found a section of fence that had been peeled back at the bottom and slid through on our stomachs, the jagged wire scraping against our backpacks. On the other side, the school's side door was boarded shut, but someone had smashed open a low basement window. Daniel pointed his camera at it and said into the lens, voice shaking just slightly, "This is it, the boiler room window." We went through. We dropped onto hard concrete in complete darkness. The smell hit immediately. Old water, rust, decay, something else underneath that I couldn't identify and didn't want to. The noise from the highway outside cut off the second we were in, replaced by the kind of silence that feels thick. Daniel switched on his camera's LED light and swept it across the room. We were in the boiler room. Not because we planned it that way. The school was built on a slope, so what looked like a ground floor window from outside had dropped us straight into the basement. Giant corroded iron tanks filled the space, rusted machinery in every direction, shadows that the single beam of light couldn't fully reach. I remember my stomach dropping when I understood where we were. The ledge back up to the window was chest height. Getting out fast wasn't going to be simple. Daniel was moving the camera slowly around the room, narrating quietly. I was about to suggest we find the stairs and get up to the main floor when Marcus grabbed my shoulder, hard, without saying anything. His flashlight was locked on the far corner of the room. I looked. At first, I couldn't see anything. Then I did. A figure, low to the ground, crouched, covered in something dark. It was just there in the corner, not moving. I couldn't tell you if it was a person or what exactly it was. Daniel swung the camera toward it to get the shot. Marcus said, "I'm out," and ran. We didn't discuss it. We ran right behind him. Marcus found the basement stairs, and we went up fast, the concrete steps uneven and covered in broken plaster. I almost went down twice. Daniel was right behind me, still somehow holding the camera. We hit a heavy metal door at the top and slammed through it into a wide corridor on the main floor. The school was a maze, identical doors, pitch-black classrooms branching off in every direction. Marcus was ahead of us, sweeping his flashlight around, looking for anything that looked like an exit. Nothing was obvious. Daniel threw his shoulder into a wooden door at the side of the hallway, and I added my weight, and we burst into what used to be an administrative office. There was a shattered window looking out onto the front courtyard. Marcus went through first, head first. Daniel threw his camera out into the grass and followed. I went last. We hit the dirt, got up, and ran until we were back over the fence. We stood on the other side, catching our breath, and looked back at the building. Nothing. No movement, no sound, nothing coming after us. Just the school sitting there with the highway roaring behind it like nothing had happened. Daniel checked the footage later. It was mostly a chaotic blur of sweeping light and darkness. You couldn't make out anything clearly in that corner. We never found out what was in that boiler room. Could have been a squatter, could have been an animal, could have been our own heads completely getting away from us in the dark. I've gone back and forth on it enough times that I've stopped landing anywhere definitive. We never went back to find out. I was 17 when this happened. I was working a shift at a drive-thru in Wisconsin. Nothing glamorous, just the kind of job you take when you're a teenager and you need money and it's the first place that calls you back. My shift ended and I headed home. It was raining, not light rain, the freezing kind that gets through everything and makes a 30-minute walk feel like punishment. I had my leather jacket on and it wasn't doing much. I cut through a shortcut I knew to shave some time off because my sister had a thing about me getting home late and I wasn't in the mood for that conversation. About 10 minutes in, a dark sedan came past me close enough that it almost soaked me completely with the water off the road. I cursed under my breath and kept walking. A few minutes later, I saw the same sedan parked on the left side of the road. As I got close, the window rolled down. A man leaned over and asked where I was headed. He looked like he was in his 30s. The way he was dressed, business casual, put together. He looked like he came from an office somewhere. Nothing about him read dangerous on the surface. I know how this sounds, but I was cold and wet, and my house was still 20 minutes away, and I just wanted to get home. I crossed over and told him where I was headed. He said he was going that way anyway, and it would be no trouble. I got in the front seat. That's when I saw his daughter strapped into the back seat. Young kid. And I remember that specifically because it made me feel better about the whole thing. Like, okay, there's a child in this car. This is fine. That feeling lasted about 10 minutes. The questions started small. Where did I work? How long had I been there? Then they got more personal. Things about my home life, my family. Questions that didn't have any obvious reason behind them. The tone of the whole car shifted in a way I couldn't fully explain, but could absolutely feel. I stopped answering the way I had been and started keeping my responses short. I spotted the old abandoned building coming up on the left. The next street after that was mine. I told him he could drop me right here, thanked him, reached for the door. It was locked. He got out of the car and came around to my side, said he wanted to open it for me. I got out and thanked him again and turned to walk. He grabbed my hand. I pulled. He pulled back harder and pressed me against him and squeezed and said something under his breath that I still hear sometimes. He said, "Why do you want to live?" Then he lifted me and threw me onto the hood of the car. I bit him, hard, teeth into his cheek, holding on until he let go, and then I ran. I went into the abandoned building instead of toward my house because I didn't want him to follow me home and know where I lived. Me and my friends used to hang around that place, so I knew the layout. I got into one of the old lockers and pulled it shut and stood there in the dark. 3 minutes maybe. Then I heard him. Rain was coming through the ceiling in a few spots, and I could hear him moving through the building, grunting, looking. I watched through the locker slats. He was pacing, sweeping the space, getting closer and then moving away. My heart was going so hard I was genuinely worried he could hear it. He paced for a few more minutes. Then he left. I stood in that locker for another few minutes after that just to be sure. Then I walked home, went straight to my sister and told her everything. We reported it that night. I gave him a full description. They said they'd look out for him. I don't know if they ever found him. Nobody followed up with me in a way that suggested they had. What I keep coming back to is the daughter in that back seat, how he left her in the car to come after me, what her life looked like when nobody else was watching. I think about her more than I think about what happened to me that night, honestly. I still get a chill when I think of those words. Why do you want to live? Not said in anger, not said like a threat exactly, said quietly, like it was a question he'd been sitting with. I don't know what that means, and I'm not sure I want to. I ain't proud of this, but when I was younger, me and my two buddies, David and Larry, we used to break into abandoned places. Just dumb stuff, honestly. We were around 17, didn't have much going on, so we'd drive around looking for old houses, places folks left behind. Sometimes we'd go in during the day, sometimes at night if we felt like pushing it. Never really found anything. Most of the time it was creaking wood, wind slipping through broken windows, or some animal running off when we stepped in. Still, I never got used to how those places felt. David didn't care none. Larry acted like he didn't. After a while, we started bringing other kids along. At first, it was just for fun, but then somebody offered to pay, and that's when it turned into something else. We'd charge them, take them out there, walk them through like we knew what we were doing, make up little stories, point at things, act like it meant something. Easy money. Went on like that for a few months. There was this one spot we used a lot, old church sitting off a dirt road, trees all around it. Building was still standing good enough, doors busted, but the inside was mostly intact. Still had the pews and the pulpit up front. Behind it there was this small mausoleum, concrete thing, low to the ground, metal door hanging loose. We'd been there plenty of times. Nothing ever happened. That night, we brought two kids. One of them was named Preston. The other one, I don't rightly remember his name. They were young. You could tell they were trying to act tough about it. We got there around 10. Ground was still a little wet like it rained earlier. Air felt heavy. We took them inside, same as always, walked them through, pointed things out, kept it moving. At some point, I stepped outside. I usually did that just to check around, make sure nobody else was coming down the road. I was out there maybe 10 minutes, didn't see nothing. Then I heard voices inside, not loud but sharp, like something wasn't right. So I went back in. David and Larry were standing near the middle of the church. Both looked off. I said, "What's going on?" David looked at me and said, "Where's Preston?" I thought he was messing around. I said, "What you mean, where's Preston?" He shook his head. "No, Larry took him to the back." I looked at Larry. Larry said, "Yeah, I told him to follow me. We went toward the side door near that old choir section. I walked out and thought he was behind me." He paused. I turned around. He wasn't there. I just stared at him. "You didn't see him leave?" He shook his head. "No." That didn't sit right with me. I looked at the other kid. He was quiet now, real quiet. I said, "You see him go somewhere?" He just shook his head. "No, he was right there." We started checking the church again, every room, every corner. Called his name a few times. Nothing. After a while, it stopped feeling like a joke. We went outside, checked around the building, the road. Still nothing. At that point, it had been a good 30 minutes since anybody last saw him, and I remember thinking, this ain't good. We brought this kid out here, took his money, and now he's just gone. The woods behind the church weren't too thick, but you couldn't see far in them, so we went in. We stayed close at first, calling out his name. No answer. Then David stopped walking. He pointed ahead. I saw someone crouched down, just sitting there. It was Preston. He was low to the ground, knees pulled in, arms around his legs, head down. For a second, I thought maybe he was messing with us. We walked closer. Then I saw his face. Something was wrong with it. Bad wrong. The side of his jaw was hanging, like it wasn't sitting right anymore. Blood all down his shirt, on his hands. I kind of locked up for a second. Larry didn't. He just turned and ran, didn't say a word, just gone. David moved forward quick, and I followed him. Preston was still breathing, barely. Eyes open, but he wasn't really seeing us. We didn't ask nothing, we just picked him up. I remember my hands slipping some from the blood. I remember him making this low sound like he was trying to talk. We got him back to the car and drove fast as we could. Didn't go back to where we met him. We took him straight to his house. He told us earlier where he lived. His mom came out when we pulled up. I don't remember what we said, just remember her screaming when she saw him. After that, everything moved fast. Police, questions, hospital. They didn't believe us at first. Can't really blame them. We got fined, parents got dragged into it. Whole thing ended right there. I never went back to that place. What sticks with me is we never figured out what happened. He couldn't have been gone more than a minute or two from when Larry thought he was behind him. There wasn't nothing out there. No tools, no glass, nothing that made sense. And we'd been there so many times before.